Welcome to the Athletic FC podcast with me, Ayo Akinwolere. After the Champions League exit, Carlo Ancelotti is expected to leave Real Madrid this summer. So when will it actually happen? And is Xabi Alonso the inevitable replacement? With us today, we have the Athletic's Real Madrid writer, Guillermo and also Tomas Lopez-Menchero as well. Now, we spoke last week on the podcast about what the future holds for Ancelotti after the defeat to Arsenal in the Champions League. So let's hear from our football correspondent, David Ornstein, who has the latest on the situation.
Well, it's pretty much decision time now for Real Madrid and Carlo Ancelotti, if indeed decisions have not already been made. We reported on The Athletic a few days ago our understanding that Ancelotti is expected to leave Real Madrid. The exact timings are unclear because Real Madrid are still competing for the La Liga title, for the Copa del Rey, even though they've been knocked out of the Champions League at the hands of Arsenal in the quarter-final stage. The sort of defeat that has cost many predecessors their job in the Spanish capital. However, Ancelotti is extremely popular, well respected, owing to his remarkable success and also long, storied and historic career. The president of the Brazilian Confederation has talked about this being a dream, and it may now come to fruition. If and when Ancelotti departs, the anticipation is that Xabi Alonso will come in to Real Madrid from Bayer Leverkusen. None of the parties involved have spoken on this, so we don't have any official word. And that means it's always open to change and nothing is concrete just yet. But certainly that's the direction of travel from speaking to a number of contacts who are well placed in and around the situation. And I think Carlo Ancelotti is going to leave this in the hands of Real Madrid to decide what they want to do. He's always professed his love for the club. And so really it is their decision.
Yeah, it's a great story from David Ornstein, as well as our colleague Mario Cortegana on The Athletic, that Ancelotti is expected to leave the club. More on Alonso a little later on. Guillermo, I'm just wondering about the timing of this because, you know, the season's not over. Real Madrid still have a chance to win La Liga, and also the Copa del Rey final, which is imminent against their arch rivals Barcelona. I mean, how the club deal with this is really important, and the timing of whether or not he stays or goes is also very important as well.
Yeah, it's not the best timing, to be honest. That's why there are voices from the world who are now trying to attack these reports, and they are trying to play it down because there is this major challenge against Barcelona, and they want to be focused on that. But the truth is that a lot of things have happened since the Arsenal defeat, and if and only if there is a big defeat against Barcelona, more things could happen sooner than later, and Ancelotti knows that. Ancelotti knows that he's in a tough spot. It's obviously up to the board, as it's always the same case when we talk about the Real Madrid coach. Is Florentino's call. But for now, he stays because it's not the right timing. In just 3-4 days, they will know if they are Copa del Rey champions, and you cannot replace your coach with something so important, so close, right?
Okay. Well, when asked at a press conference on Tuesday if he was feeling the pressure, Ancelotti said the club is aware that it has been a more complicated year than last year. Together, we managed the difficulties. The honeymoon continues. I'm very happy with a lot of pressure, but that's how it always is. You see success very close, and it's normal for stress to increase. But stress, listen to this, is fuel for me. It doesn't bother me. It gives me more energy to think about more things. As long as I continue to get up in the morning, everything is fine. Thomas, I mean, does he need any more connections to the phrase Don Carlo with that coolness? Stress is fuel for me. But also, I do wonder, and we were just talking about this before the podcast, how many more kind of coaches in the global game right now can wear that stress of managing Real Madrid, where the pressure is so big every season, more than Ancelotti?
Yeah, the pressure is huge. And as you said, Ayo, I think it's something we've talked about on previous podcasts, that Ancelotti just seems the perfect manager for that kind of environment. He really is as cool as a cucumber. You know, he enjoys that stress, as he says. I do think this season has been different to the last one, though, because as much as Ancelotti managed to kind of paper over the cracks last season in many ways, I often don't think he gets enough credit for how he dealt with losing three key pieces of his defence, including the goalkeeper Thibaut Courtois to ACL injuries, and yet still recovering to win La Liga and the Champions League. This year has definitely been more difficult. I think losing Toni Kroos plays a big part in that. Losing defender Nacho Fernandez as well, that's difficult to deal with, particularly if you don't replace him. And as much as having a great superstar forward as Mbappe in your front line helps, and you know, Guillermo has written about how they kind of expected, the coaching staff expected to score more goals and concede more. You know, the reality is they've scored about the same number of goals and conceded more. And in a situation like that, it's clear you're going to struggle. I think Ancelotti deals with the pressure well, but I do think there are signs this season that pressure has amped up and you know, has become untenable at times.
Yeah, Guillermo, this is a coach that's won more trophies than any other manager in the club's history. I'm just wondering where he ranks in terms of, you know, his global stock right now, because as I've just said to Thomas, it's not many people that can wear the stress of Real Madrid on their shoulders like Ancelotti. And if he were to be replaced, I mean, you need someone who's ready to take that on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Ancelotti came from Everton. Probably he wasn't at I would say it wasn't the top level of his career. And when he joined Real Madrid, there were, I think, part of the Real Madrid fan base who criticized the move because of that. And now I don't think that anyone is saying Ancelotti is not the right man for any role. Now he's like, after these 4 years, these years, 2 Champions League titles and so on, he has all the credit and he can be anywhere. And from what I know, he's thinking on the next steps of his career. He's open to be the coach of a national team. We have reported David and Mario about Brazil, but I think he has plenty of options, obviously because of what he has done in the past 4 years. And yeah, I think that now any substitute will have to deal with this shadow. It will be hard for Xabi Alonso or whoever comes next, because it is what it is. The titles are there, and you can always have your team playing really, really well in terms of style. Who probably is the worst thing that it has been criticized lately about Carlo. But in terms of titles, it is really difficult to overcome a man who has won 2 Champions League titles in just 4 years.
Yeah, Thomas, if Brazil is the next destination, I mean, I'm wondering why it would appeal to Ancelotti. But then you look at the teams Ancelotti's coach: Juventus, AC Milan, Chelsea, PSG, Real Madrid twice, Bayern Munich, Napoli. I mean, these are some of the big juggernauts in European football. He just had a little flirt with Everton as well, which I'm sure the Everton fans love. But this is a coach that's amassed maybe 20-odd trophies in his career, won 5 European titles. I mean, this is one of the most coveted managers in the world. Surely Don Carlo just wants to put his feet up, bit of Copacabana Beach, be out there with the Brazilian guys, and he's already got a few of those players on his team already.
Yeah, it does feel like it's another, you know, it's a step that would be impressive on a CV point of view. As you say, it kind of feels like a national team to rival those clubs that you mentioned there. I do also think it would be going into another pressure cooker environment. Sure. I mean, Brazil, one of the most demanding jobs in the game. We know from a lot of writing by our colleague Jack Lang that they're at a low ebb at the moment, losing 4-1 to Argentina in the last international break, sacking their coach Dorival Jr. after that. I think Ancelotti will be the first foreign-born manager of Brazil since 1965, so that I'm sure would add pressure. But as you say, and as Mario's reported, he's got good links with those Brazilian players at Madrid, Vinicius, Rodrigo, Militao, Endrick to an extent. That's probably the big draw of leading them at the 2026 World Cup. And I mean, what a way that would be to go out as a coach if he was able to lead them to the final and a record-extending 6th title in the US. Obviously, there's a long way to go until that happens, but even so, I can see the appeal from Ancelotti's point of view, although I don't think it's quite the kind of putting your feet up job that he might have envisaged.
Yeah, Guillermo, look, we've heard reports that, there's a gentleman's agreement between Alonso and Leverkusen. What's the latest on this situation?
Fernando Carro was in Madrid on Monday, and he confirmed that there was indeed a gentleman's agreement between Xabi and Leverkusen. If Xabi is approached by any former club, then Leverkusen will set him free, but they will have to sit free and to sit and discuss about the options. Is curious because last season there were some offers for Xabi Alonso from other clubs. I think we reported about Liverpool's interest, Bayern Munich's interest. And as Fernando Carro acknowledged on Monday, I was with him at the Lars Awards. And basically what he said is that Xabi sit with them. And on March last year, 2024, basically what he said to the Leverkusen board is, okay, let's discuss about the future. I think this year I will stay. It was in 2024 and he stayed. Now what Carlo said is that they have sit in this international break back in March. It was late March, and they haven't had a decision from Xabi. What they have agreed is to take some time. What Carlo said is, okay, in the next 3 or 4 weeks we will have to have a decision, and we are at this point. Leverkusen, at least officially, doesn't know if Xabi Alonso is going to continue, but it's true that now that Carlo has acknowledged that there is this gentleman agreement, it will be strange that if Real Madrid really needs Xabi Alonso and goes to him, that Leverkusen will stop Real Madrid because of this move. But we will have to see, as I said, because Carlos said that there are 3-4 weeks of deadline and things could change, but they obviously plan the next season with Xabi, and they are also planning like the next season with some successors. Carlo didn't mention any possible substitute, but he was speaking like very with honesty about the case, which is strange for a director.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't want to connect too many of the dots because the world of football constantly changes, Thomas, but this is a really interesting one, and we've been talking about this for a while. Do you think it's time for Xabi Alonso to step up, some might say? What a wonderful season he had last season with Leverkusen, went unbeaten. This season's been okay. It hasn't been great, but it's been okay. They're still second in the Bundesliga, an okay Champions League run. Some might say perhaps he wants to test himself at a bigger stage, but there's also a certain Florentino Perez on the other side, who's a tricky customer.
Yeah, it's hard to say whether it's the right time for Xabi Alonso. I think that's true of asking that about any coach for Real Madrid, because it's such a big job with unique pressures. I do think him having bided his time seemingly as a coach over the past couple of seasons plays in his favour. He's clearly chosen a pretty intelligent path, coaching Real Sociedad's B team, where he came through as a player, then going to Leverkusen, maybe a bit out of the spotlight. I definitely see parallels there with Zidane when he joined Madrid as a legendary former player, but Xabi Alonso is far advanced actually in his kind of coaching career and has already achieved such great success with Leverkusen, which plays in his favour. Again, it's just how the chips kind of fall when you're actually at the Bernabeu. I do think his experience there at the club as a player, he also left on his own terms. I think that all helps. He knows how to manage those unique pressures, and players would look up to him. I mean, you know that from even reading interviews, watching and listening to interviews with his Leverkusen players. They do look up to him because of that legendary playing career he's had, and I'm sure he would be able to instill his philosophy at Madrid. You feel like he has the personality to do that.
Yeah, he does have a certain aura, Guillermo, because of what he's won as a player and actually as a coach now, especially what he's done at Leverkusen. But, I guess the expectation at Leverkusen, him arriving, would be a lot different to the expectation and the pressure of arriving at Real Madrid, especially off the back of a season where they haven't won the Champions League. There's a chance they might not win La Liga or the Copa del Rey. And he's going to be coming into that and trying to implement new ideas. I mean, do you think he's the kind of coach that can wear this kind of pressure?
Well, I think that he has the experience from his career as a player, as you said, obviously. He knows how Real Madrid works. He has been at the Real Madrid Academy as a coach. It was his first job as a football coach. So I would say that he has the experience. But when you arrive at Real as a coach, as a coach of the first team, it's a completely different scenario, and we will have to see. He hasn't had this experience at Leverkusen. I remember a conversation with a Real Madrid senior source back last year when there was some discussions regarding Xabi's future, and this source told me something significant, which was, okay, we understand that Xabi is staying one more year because he has nothing to lose at Leverkusen. All that he does is positive for the club. And is something that I consider like significant, because at Real it's difficult to get anything positive apart from a triumph, apart from a title. In other clubs, if you see growth, if you see development, then people will be happy. But here at Real, even if they complain, the fans, maybe some directors complain about the style, what they really need is the triumph. They really need the victory. And Xabi will have to deal with that, along with all the changes that the team have to have, obviously. And if and only if Real Madrid have to pay something, because we were talking about a gentleman's agreement, but it has been reported elsewhere in Germany that there could be a breakout clause in the contract with Bayer Leverkusen. Imagine if Real Madrid have to pay an amount for Xabi Alonso, then the pressure will be higher, and the people will say, okay, we are paying for a coach like a player, then he will have to deliver, of course.
I want to move on to the kind of football he might play, Thomas, but very quickly, Guillermo, I'm just thinking about the Real Madrid fans here. I mean, are they spoilt a little bit? Most other teams, the season they've had, of course, they've not done well in the Champions League, but this is just one season, they've not done well in the Champions League. They usually win the Champions League. It's almost their fate to win the Champions League. Yes, they're not winning La Liga, but this is just another season. Football is just kind of like this. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't.
Well, you seem like a Real Madrid director right now. It was like it was the official narrative, but after a decade in which Real Madrid have lifted 6 Champions League titles, it's impossible not to be demanding. It's the Real Madrid spirit, and that's why they are so victorious, or so successful as a club. Well, I think that Real Madrid fan base are completely and are really aware about the club situation, not only about the sporting situation, but also financial situation, everything. And still demanding because they have seen incredible things, so they have the right to be so.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about if it is Xabi Alonso who comes to Real Madrid. I'm thinking about the style of football, because something I will go on to in a second is where this squad currently are, but this is a guy that likes a little bit more structure, as we've seen, and he's got a particular system. Now, back to this fan base. Did this fan base have the time for it not to work immediately, and hopefully maybe wait one season before they see the real Real Madrid under a new coach, or would they expect instant success? And can he do it in such a short space of time?
Yeah, I think, Ayo, as you say, they probably would expect instant success. That's what that's what Madrid fans have come to expect of their team, obviously with so many superstars in it. I think what Alonso would bring is more structure, probably a more intricate style of play. I know Michael Cox has written about how, despite Xabi Alonso being a kind of long passer in his day, actually short passing is what his Leverkusen team are built on. Whether players such as Vinicius and Mbappe have the patience to learn from someone like Alonso, I guess we'll see. But I do think that past of his as a player probably does help you'd imagine he'd have some bright ideas as well as to how to fix Madrid's midfield, which has been a big source of concern this season in the absence of Toni Kroos. But yeah, I think those are the main things that Alonso would bring to Madrid. As you say, whether he'd be given the time to actually implement that is another question.
Okay, well, let's move on. What might be next for Real Madrid? Because you look, Guillermo, if it is Xabi Alonso, I'm just thinking there are some very talented players on that Leverkusen squad. One of them, Jonathan Tah. You look at the issues Real Madrid now have in defence. Could this be a player that he brings across with him? Because, of course, Jonathan Tah's recently admitted that he won't be staying past the end of his contract at Bayern Leverkusen.
Yeah, it's funny because Fernando Carro at the Laureus Awards was very, very open, and he spoke about Jonathan Tah as well. He said, every time I came into the dressing room, I asked Jonathan what is going to happen with him, if he's joining this club or the other. Well, as far as I know, Jonathan Tah was closer to Barcelona than Real Madrid. It's true that there has been some reports related to the Jonathan Tah's option coming to Real Madrid, because he's a free agent. Is like the classical or the
that's
typical
a Madrid
move.
signing right there.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I was going. So it's true that it's an option, and it's an interesting one. But I don't think he has, with all due respect, but he has like the Real Madrid level, and that's why there has been like some doubts, and the club has been hesitated. But it's true that there has been some links. But not only Jonathan Tah, of course. We are talking about Florian Wirtz. Is probably the jewel of the team. But I see it as a difficult move because of the price. Of course, it will be up to 100 million euro. There are more clubs behind him, and I think Alonso coming in to Real Madrid will help some players probably to get closer to the Real. Is the truth, but we have to see every scenario, every case. In Florian Wirtz's case, I don't see it because of the price and Real Madrid's latest moves that have been free agents, as we have been talking, or other cases.
Yeah, I mean, Wirtz is an interesting one, Thomas, isn't he? Especially with Toni Kroos, that gaping hole clearly in the midfield, and also Luka Modric. Well, it's got to be like 40 odd now. I mean, he can't last forever, but that will be really fascinating if it is Xabi Alonso, because we've seen how influential Wirtz is to the system that Alonso plays.
Yeah, I think Wirtz is probably a more attacking player than Kroos, you'd have to say. And with so many superstar forwards, I mean, I don't doubt that Wirtz would bring something very different to those players, Vinicius, Mbappe, Rodrigo as well, Bellingham. But I do think it's probably further back that Madrid have the problems in defence, in defensive midfield. You know, Tchouaméni is a player who seems to be growing into his place a bit more in the team, actually, despite these recent struggles of the side. But even so, you know, Madrid have struggled to replace Kroos, and you're always going to struggle to replace a player like that. I think that's probably where they need to look. Central defence as well. Although, as Guillermo says, I'm sure Xabi Alonso can use, you know, his sort of links as well. I'm sure that aura will help attract some players to the club, or, you know, attract some players into the club's orbit if they needed that at all, because, you know, Madrid still remain that big draw for lots of players.
Yeah, Guillermo, look, we mentioned there's still lots to play for Madrid in particular. Well, we'll see how that looks at the end of this weekend, but, you know, they can still cut the gap to Barca back to 4 points if they win against Getafe tonight. Look, they also have the Clásico. Ancelotti would want to make sure, if he is to leave, you know, he surely leaves on a high with something in the cabinet.
Yeah, and it won't be a bad season if they end up lifting 2 titles, even if it's not the Champions League. Then La Liga and Copa del Rey are not too bad. I mean, it's a good season. That's for sure. The point is that he's in really real need. I mean, if Ancelotti lose, for any instance, the Copa del Rey title, and they lose La Liga before the end of La Liga season. There are still 6 games to be played. Then his future could be decided sooner than the season ends. That's why it's also important for Carlo. That's why everyone is paying attention to every Real Madrid result right now and from now to the end of the season. And that's why the board is also attentive to every game. Now every game is a final. Is the right thing to say.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that, you know, winning La Liga and the Copa del Rey, would be not a bad season for Madrid compared to other clubs. But I think Guillermo's totally right. Like, the Champions League ultimately does feel like the be all and end all for this club. I think in one-off games against Barca, the pessimism among fans will be that they've lost 4-0 and 5-2 this season already. The first time Barca have put 4 goals past them in consecutive games, and so you wonder in that one-off Copa del Rey final, they definitely have to be considered underdogs on Saturday. Then you've got the May 11th Clásico, another one-off game. As much as Barca could drop points between now and the end of the season, that, you know, the direction of travel really seems to be that they are winning everything. Even last night against an inspired Mallorca goalkeeper, they still managed to eke out a 1-0 win. And meanwhile, Madrid are kind of struggling. They're still in there, but it's hard to see how the tide is turned. But they're still in it.
Very quickly, Guillermo, before you go, I'm just thinking about the brand of La Liga, and I'm not here to ask you to talk ill of Real Madrid, but surely for the brand of La Liga, it's great that Barcelona come back, maybe Real Madrid come back the season after. So it's not just one team that is winning everything. You know what I mean? Considering the narrative we've had of Barcelona over the last couple of seasons, for the league at least, it's good that perhaps that Real Madrid don't win it all this season.
Yeah, it's true. But if you see like the last seasons, you take a view. Last time that Real Madrid have won 2 La Ligas in a row, it has been in 2007 and 2008. So
yeah, good point.
Almost 20 years, 2 decades. Barcelona have been more successful in the last 20 years because of Leo Messi, of course. Maybe now with Lamine Yamal, they are successful as well. But for Real Madrid, have been tremendously difficult to win 2 La Ligas in a row. So I wouldn't say that if Madrid come back and win La Liga, we shouldn't say, okay, La Liga have less credit or, you know, is overpriced, overvalued. It's more a thing of, okay, there are 2 big teams, Real Madrid and Barcelona, of course, and the distance between them and the rest is so high that probably is what make us feel that like La Liga have less credit. But still I think that it has been a magnificent season, very, very competitive, and that's why we are still discussing about this, even that we are close to the end of the season.
Yeah, fantastic. Lots of action for sure in La Liga this season. Tomas, Guillermo, thank you so much for your time, and also thank you guys for watching as well. Be sure to like the video and also subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to leave us a comment as well. Right, we're back soon. If you want to watch more episodes of the show, please subscribe to the channel. We'll be joined by the likes of David Ornstein, Matt Slater, Adam Crafton, Carl Anka, and plenty more through the season. If you'd like to listen to the episodes in full in audio form, search The Athletic FC wherever you get your podcasts from.